Hey there, welcome back to Owl Dragon Adventures. I'm Scott Kegler.
And I'm Rob McPherson.
And this is our initial reactions to Stifling Dark.
So Stifling Dark by Sophisticated Cerberus Games is a game that just hit Kickstarter. If you're seeing this right as soon as we post it, you should still be able to back it now. If not, I have been told there will be late pledges, so keep an eye out for that. I'll put a link down below for that. It is a one versus many hidden movement game where the one hidden is playing a horror-themed killer of some sort. There are, I believe, 3 unlocked on the campaign as of right now. The one that comes with the review copy here and the initial game is the Butcher, which is a classic slasher horror type of killer. And so the objective of the game, and then the many is the investigators who are scouring the map trying to find evidence in order to figure out how to escape. And then once they found out enough clues, they're able to choose from different objectives as how they want to end it. So I believe the ones when we were playing is you had to fix the truck and leave. You could hunt me down and kill me. What was the third one? Do you remember? I don't recall. Because you had the ability that made the...
Well, it was to fix the car, leave, open the gate, or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember all the options. We ended up playing the car one on that one we did.
So they chose to try to fix the car and leave. So it is. This is a prototype copy that we got. So thank you for that. And we broke it out and we played it. Now I will preface 2 things. One, as I said, this is a prototype copy, so some of the rules are probably still getting polished, and the components are some of them are prototype components, some of them are final components. So we're not going to speak too much on quality or things like that. And there was one more thing. We only played it with 3 players. So we played it with myself as the Butcher, and then 2 other players.
And it plays up to 5.
And it plays up to 5, yeah. So with that in mind, our initial reactions to the game.
We'll talk with some positive things and some things that were not so positive for us, and reactions just to help you inform your decision on if this is a game you're looking to get into.
Yep, so this is not going to be our standard 5x5 that we usually do. We're just going to kind of talk about what we like, what we didn't like, and leave you up to make the decision from there.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick things off with the likes? I think we have the same one on the first one.
Yeah, I think it's the first one, and it's actually what I've heard a lot of other people talk about this game. It's probably with hidden movement games, it's they're pretty focused in concept, and there's usually one rule or one mechanic in each one of these hidden movement games that is their main showcase item. And in this game with a horror is this flashlight mechanic, and you may have seen it on their page. We'll have put up a shot of it here. But you're basically at some point during your turn, you can end your turn by using this flashlight, this piece of...
it's acrylic. It's like an acrylic cone.
Yellow acrylic cone to check out an area. This is how you find items. This is how you find the killer, to know where they are and really move the game forward. It's your investigation action in the game. And it was just the most unique aspect, I felt, of the game.
Yeah, it felt really balanced because you didn't just get to turn it on every turn. You drained battery by doing it, and the only way to get battery back is by not turning it on. So it never felt overpowered from a killer standpoint. I never felt like, they're always going to have their flashlights on. I knew they were going to have to stop, especially because there were some weather events that made it drain even faster. So there was times that they could amp that up. I really liked it, specifically from the... I guess this goes into my second like.
Before we move on from the flashlight, though, I'd like to say, it wasn't in this killer. I'm hoping it's in others in the box. I think there was somewhat of a missed opportunity to not have the flashlight interact with the killer more. Because it really didn't do anything to the killer other than reveal them from a location standpoint. So that's just... thoughts, feedback, and
I'll agree with that completely. So there's the mechanic of the game where if you're in pitch black as a player, you have halved movement, or it costs you twice as much movement in order to go through a space. And I really like that. It's like D&D, difficult terrain.
Yeah.
I think that's a good mechanic in a game, especially in a horror game. What could have been cool, and maybe it's in other adversaries, or maybe it was play tested and scrapped for some reason, but maybe the killer gets half movement when they're in the flashlight, or maybe they can't get closer to the people if they're in the flashlight, or just something. Again, we've only played with the one adversary. Maybe it's like a thematic thing that they're going to add in other ones, or maybe it didn't play test well, but that's just kind of our thoughts on that. Yeah, I would agree with you completely.
So what was your second thing?
So my second thing ties into the flashlight a bit. I really like the way that the clues and items are hidden around the board.
Right.
So you've got a stack of item cards, which at first I was like, oh God, if they pick up items, they got to like sort through this deck, or, they draw through the deck. But really what it is you draw these tokens as the killer at the beginning of the game, and I place them on my little mini map behind my screen, and I hide them, including one cursed item, which didn't hurt you nearly as badly as I was hoping it would.
Yeah.
And when they turn their flashlight on it, I then take it from my mini map and I put it out on the board. So like they don't see anything on the board until they use their flashlight to find it. So it encourages them in other times than just finding me to turn on their flashlight so they can see things. So I thought that was a really clever mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, my second thing was just simply the character art in general was very strong. I found it really helped to. It reminded me of a couple of darker zombie games there, like Dead of Winter kind of art. I thought it was
very much
fun poppy art there. So
yep, and I like how on the screen that masks it, you got, I believe it's this artwork if I remember correctly. I'll have a picture of it here,
with the butcher on it.
Yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. My third thing that I really liked is, so when you're on the killer side, you have the ability to stalk, which is as long as you have line of sight and are within 8 spaces, you can stalk someone, which just gives them like I believe it's a chilled spine chill, something like that. Yeah. Where that's how the killer gains their action points to one of the ways they gain their action points to be able to do things like their attacks, because they have to spend action points to make an attack or to use certain abilities. So I thought it was a really cool thing because that fits into the horror theme also very well for me in terms of the like I've got eyes on you and that's how I'm getting more powerful. I think that we saw a couple of ways that it could have been made a little bit amped up a little bit more, but again, one adversary.
Yeah,
it might be other one. Yeah. So it's like I think that Scott and I could sit here and just like come up like 5 more adversaries that we think could be fun.
Well, right, and it's like it would be like the Final Girl game if you were just reviewing it off of
the butcher.
I forgot his name is. It's the guy with the pig mask. There.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
but like the same idea where like if you just judge it off of that, where I'm like, there are pros and cons with that character.
Yeah, so that was my third like.
Yeah, my last thing was pretty much most of the iconography was very easy to follow on the board as far as starting spaces, things like that. Not done to death with too many symbols. So I thought that was a positive.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good graphic design from that standpoint. I think it was very clear.
Excellent.
Yeah, I didn't have to dig through the rule book for many things.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that complex of a rule book. I'll say that as well. That was good from an accessibility standpoint. Fortunately, most hidden movement rules games seem to be not too bad as far as
it's fairly straightforward. It's one person can't be seen, the rest can. Yeah.
Well, and it's like the hardest part of these games is just understanding usually the asymmetric person, like what they can do, cannot do.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that is just some of the things the positives that we had with the game.
So I'll just real quick before we go on to the dislikes, I'll say overall, I think it's got a lot of positive qualities going for it. It's got a lot of strength to it. If you like hidden movement games, especially if you like horror games, I think you're going to find a game you enjoy in it. But now we're going to go on to the things that we didn't quite strike home for us. So just to temper it, in case any of these trigger something that might turn you off on it, we figured we'd mention these. You want to kick off? You want me to kick off?
You can go first this time. I went first last time.
So I will say, again, prefacing, we did play only at 3 players, and I felt like as the butcher, I was really weak with only two people that I was chasing down. The map's really big, so me getting to them was really hard. I only got close to them like twice, really, because I was trying to stay out of their flashlight a bit. And at 3 players, you only get 2 cards. You get an attack card and an ability card, and the ability card is required to be a 0-point ability card, which means it's one of the weaker abilities. And with just those 2 things to do and no way to gain the ability card or more ability cards as I played, I never felt like I was growing in strength or becoming more dangerous. So that to me was like the beginning of the game, I felt really good as the killer. Like the first 4 or 5 rounds, I was like, yeah, this is great. I was like, I was spooking them. I was going in. I hit Sean pretty good early on. And then I was like, this is fine. I can do it. And then they kept picking up some items that were mitigating my damage. And I became less and less powerful as the game went on. And that's something that possibly if I had other ability cards that cost some of the stock points that I was building up, I could have come back from. But at the player count that I was at, which is all I can judge it for right now, I didn't feel like I was scary on my side of the board.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
My first thing that just really didn't click for me in the game is I found the map particularly. Like I said, I liked the character art, and actually most of the design of the player boards was very good. But the map itself felt like function over aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like it's this grid with the spaces that move around. It just didn't seem with all the numbers that were there, it ended up being a little bit busy for me on that end, and just some of it was a little too clean. Maybe they can play with that a little bit before they do final production copies.
I get why they were numbered like they are. It did make it easy because they could call out like it's like is there anything in spots, 295, 296, whatever. And I could just look at my mini map and see immediately. But it does add a bit of clutter to the board. It looks...
It also just might be like... I mean, I know you want to be able to easily see it, but like I feel like they're just... I don't know, they'd want to play with the...
Maybe just tone the contrast down a bit.
Yeah, like something. Because it just... It ends up being like... Like a lot of outlines.
Yeah,
on the board that you're looking at.
That's fair. And the map art itself, I like. It's not,
but you can really see it as much because it's
behind
distracted by the
it's like when you're playing D&D and you've got a battle map, and at least for me on Roll20, I sit there and I play with the contrast on the grid lines. I'm like, okay, you can just see it now, but it's not distracting from the art. Right. So it's one of those. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I wrote the same thing down twice. So I'll go with my third one that I didn't like, which is the scaling. To me, at least from my side of the board, looking at the players, I felt like they were picking up a lot of things that were easily mitigating, specifically at the lower player counts, again, specifying that. You need... 5 points of evidence, right, in a normal game, something like that.
You put down 5.
Yeah, you put down 5 points of evidence, 2. And they only needed to collect 2, one for each of them. Which I'm kind of okay with that. Yeah. But what I didn't like is then that they got to just take 3 evidence cards and have those in their possession from the beginning, which let them just have these abilities. Like there was a couple of my abilities they were able to just shrug off. And maybe if you had to only get 2 evidence cards, but you didn't get the other ones.
Right, or start with one card. I agree that we felt very stacked. Like we went into the game feeling like, and I'll talk about this one of mine, but like I'll let you have more on that.
No, I'm good with that. Yeah,
so I can kind of transition to one of mine with that. Is that at first in any kind of games, like there's a killer after you, and it's like scary, but then like we're mitigating most of the things that happened. Yeah. So at a certain point, like sure we needed to complete the objectives because we need to win the game on our side of the board, but I know there was several rounds where I lost interest where the killer was, which I feel like if that's happening, that seems like a scaling issue or a power issue where we weren't as scared of where you were. Like we were able to move so far past you where we relatively knew where you were and could just truck towards our objectives.
Yeah, and I will say that I did take a look through the ability cards after we played, and I found that I might have chose a suboptimal one in terms of gameplay. I don't know how much of a difference it would have made in terms of that feeling. I know there was a couple of things.
Which I would recommend in the rule book then for this first game. I would do a recommended series of cards that the player should choose and recommended investigators that you should play with. Yeah,
because the first time I ever play a game, like, even if I understand the iconography from a logical standpoint, it doesn't sink in with me, or even a terminology thing. Like, I can understand what something means, but it doesn't click with me what it does to the game.
Well, there's a difference in knowing the rules and knowing the strategy. Yeah. And like I feel like that's why like giving somebody like here's the best cards that will probably play into a strategy that we hope you'll see quickly. Yep. And that's what I would just say with it, maybe a tutorial, like just a sub bullet saying, hey, we recommend for your first game starting with this.
Yep. And people can ignore that, and that's fine. But
100%. And we do sometimes.
And we do, absolutely.
But like it just gives you that option, particularly with this.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And
my last thing was just this is a weird thing, and I just first I was chuckling at it, but then I saw it as kind of a trend in the game. There was some aesthetics in the writing of certain cards and abilities for people that I didn't know. It became a little muddy, like what world I was in. Like, were you just a slasher killer? Were you a supernatural one? Were we supernaturally powered? Like, a couple examples, without spoiling anything in the game. There was one ability on one investigator that literally says, like, everyone has very mundane abilities
and major powers.
But yeah, they have a minor and a major, and most of them are mundane abilities. Like, this person has extra stamina or something like that.
Yep.
And then everyone's all these mundane abilities, and one character literally has as her major abilities says teleport.
Yeah.
And literally can backtrack to a space she was at, like, which could be like 7 or 8 spaces behind from where she was.
Right.
Backtrack all the way there, and if it meant to be like a backtrack ability and not supernatural, I think that I would just clarify that on the card, because teleport was like, I was like, am I the one member of Xavier's School of the Gifted and everyone else is these normal investigators?
I'll agree. I think from a theme-wise, in terms of the supernatural, it needs to lean one direction or the other. Like,
just pick a lane.
And I'm fine with it if all of the investigators are supernatural. And they all have, like, maybe all of them, their major power is supernatural. Just lean into it.
I didn't get that impression, so I think that maybe it was just an odd choice. I would just maybe clarify that, and then if it's what you're saying, then maybe, change a lot. And then there was one other card where it said, like, false window, which basically meant you, like, block a window from line of sight and access to the killer, which to me, false window makes it sound like it's a spell or an illusion. And there was a couple that had like that, where really it was rules-wise, you were boarding up a window or closing up. And I think, like, that was the intention. I would just correct it.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the tokens that you put down on the
look
doors
like barricades.
Yeah, they look like barricades.
So I would just maybe change the wording on those cards. That was just my feedback on the game.
Yeah, so I feel like the third thing that I will say, what I think I meant by this note is I think that the adversary needs at least a secondary thing to do other than hunt down. And again, could be a scenario thing, could be an adversary thing, maybe other ones do. But in this case, the butcher, like, I was just hunting them down. But if I had known how little I scaled throughout it, I would probably just have tried to run you down and kill you from the get-go.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like, for me, I felt like you should have had to move those cards you were using and, like, just an available short list of minor actions you can do that just, like, if, like, maybe your cards aren't even, like, a good action for where you are on the map. Like, there's a minor thing you can do as well.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll be in other characters. Not sure.
Yep.
Again, a prototype game. Overall, if you like hidden movement, you like horror games, it's definitely in that vein. The flashlight thing is interesting for a horror night.
Yeah, I think it's a strong entry into the hidden movement games. It's got a good theme to it. One thing that I think that it has going for it, that a couple of the newer games in the hidden movement genre are coming out with, but not very many still, is it's very modular. They can easily, like, release new scenarios or release new adversaries, which changes up the game. But yeah, if you like horror games, it's a good game. I enjoyed it. Hidden movement's not usually my favorite thing. I did enjoy the game quite a bit. I just wish that I felt a little scarier from my side of the board, and that the investigators didn't feel quite as much of a immovable wall.
Right, that could be some minor scaling as they wrap things up with their production copy. Excellent. Well,
so that was Stifling Dark by Sophisticated Cerberus Games on Kickstarter now, or late pledge, depending on when you're watching this.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or comments, go ahead, leave those below, and we'll make sure we get to all of those. If you like this content, you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. With that, we wish you good luck with all of your future board game adventures.
And thank you for joining us on ours.